All right, we're just going to give this another minute. If everybody in the room wants to take a second and share the event to remind people to come on in, that would be pretty awesome. I'm going to do the same thing.
Yep.
Live now with a couple really fast dudes. There we go.
Cool.
Hope you guys are having a great day today.
Yeah.
Happy Tuesday.
It's nice, man. It's really excited to see, what we get into here. So, been looking forward to this. It is, we're really excited, and I'm just sitting out here on my patio. The weather is nice.
Nice weather. I'm not sure where you are, but I'm in New Hampshire. It was really hot and sunny. Then all of a sudden, it just started raining a few days ago. So, it's just kind of rainy these days.
It's all right. Yeah, I'm in Davidson, North Carolina. It's beautiful out. Dogs are in the backyard. If you hear any barking or any squeaky toys, it's because my dogs are trying to get my attention. My one dog who's a pup, her name is Cricket. She lives for the tennis ball, and she runs up to the patio, and if you don't throw the ball off the patio for her, she will roll it off the patio herself and then go get it.
Nice.
Yep. See a bunch of people in a bunch of listeners as well. So hopefully, I think can they send us messages as well for later on?
So what we're going to do is there's a post attached to this event, and people can post in there and ask questions. And I have a mod, KT, hello in the audience, Kevin Thompson. KT, the Kilt Man, is going to be looking up for questions, and he's going to send them to me in Discord, so I'll be able to see them and make sure that happens. So, who is faster, a dog when he wants a tennis ball, or you guys in a car?
That's well, you both have to have fast reactions, I would think.
I would say, yeah, pure
either
natural abilities and raw talent, definitely the dog.
Outstanding. All right, well, you know what? We're actually going to get started. It's a few past, and time is precious. So we'll just get started, and anybody who wants to join us late can do that. This audio is being recorded, so after this is all done, we'll post the audio, and it can be shared and viewed for decades into the future. So good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Young, and you are listening to Game Changers, taking racing off track and online. I am the founder of the Facebook Game Developers Group. It's got 34,000 members or so, started about 10 years ago by me, who wanted to just connect. I love community, I love game development, and I love helping people get to where they want to go in life. And that's what the group is all about. Tonight I have with me here Parker and Landon, who are both some extremely fast guys. You may have seen them in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, for example. Landon Castle is actually an 80s kid, just makes the cusp of it. And we'll go ahead and let you give a little bit of intro there, Landon.
Yeah, so thank you. I think 80s kid almost. I was born in 89, and I just had a birthday July 7th, so I'm 32 years old. I've been a NASCAR driver since 2007. I've raced in pretty much all three of NASCAR's top divisions. This year I'll be coming up on my 500th career NASCAR start, which is kind of wild. I've been in it for a while, so I'm kind of an old guy, but I've been doing it for a while, and I race in the Xfinity Series. I drive car number 4 for JD Motorsports. I drive a Chevy. I'm sponsored by Voyager, which is a cryptocurrency brokerage platform. I'm a crypto guy as well. I've been in the space for a number of years and have built a network and built a community that have led to my sponsorship with Voyager. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later too.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, we love crypto in the game developer community with between blockchain gaming and social tokens, and we'll definitely get into that. I was super psyched to find out about your background there. And Parker Kligerman, did I say your last name correctly, sir?
Close. It's Kligerman, but you wouldn't be the first to make that mistake. So I'll let
And
you
I won't
have a
be the
pass.
last. Yeah.
Nope.
Well, let's see. We can't qualify you as a '90s kid, but yeah, you're pretty close to Landon. So, would you like to give a little bit of intro to yourself?
Yeah, so Landon made me look up how many starts I've had in NASCAR because I didn't realize he was almost at 500, which is amazing. Congratulations. I also drive NASCAR. I've driven all three series currently. Currently I race in the truck series, the number 75 truck, and owned by a grocery chain out of Virginia and Tennessee, and then also one of our most recent primary partners is a company called Fast, or Fast Checkout, fast.co. You can check them out there. They're facilitating one-click checkout across the internet, which is pretty awesome. But in terms of also, in addition to that, I am a analyst and reporter for NBC Sports across all their motorsports coverage. So you'll find me, if I'm not in a car, you'll most likely see me on TV talking about race cars. So that's often what I'm into. And then Landon and I both together have a big passion for gaming and sim racing, which is our version of motorsports of gaming.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get in that a little bit, but that takes up a lot of our time as well.
That's awesome. Actually, I mean, I was gaming since a little guy. That's why I learned and always had the dream to be a game developer, just like probably a lot of guys, a lot of girls too. We're numbered in the millions now, and racing games is definitely in the top. I know my little boys both have beat me at least once or twice, and it's just awesome because one of those kind of games that you get to play over and over and over again. You know, it's several minutes in length. You get the chance to improve upon perfection, racing yourself, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is basically how you guys had the opportunity to drive in real life, and then compete in iRacing and do a lot of simulated racing, in an age where it's actually viable. Because 5 years ago, to be able to do that kind of thing with a very physical simulated video game would have been impossible. You just didn't have the rigs at home or even in a shop to be able to do that. So I really want to talk a little bit about that tonight to begin with, just to get things kicked off, because I have never spoken to anybody with as much experience in simulation racing as you guys have. It's a very niche sport, but it's got a very increased following, especially because of COVID last year and the impact of audience attendance on events. So for some of our listeners, tell us a little bit about how gaming plays into NASCAR training.
Yeah, I'll start here, Landon, and then you can just butt in wherever you want. But essentially, there's simulators that teams and manufacturers have, which is the very advanced, very expensive simulators that they allow us to use, and those have become far more frequently used in the last couple of years. But at the same time, one of the most used tools for race car drivers has been the simulations that you can use at home, right? Which you mentioned, having a rig at home with a wheel and pedal set, and 3 monitors. I'm looking at mine right now in my room here, and that using simulations like iRacing has allowed drivers to do to practice racing from their home, which just 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it wasn't possible, right?
Right.
If you wanted to drive a race car, practice drive a race car, you wouldn't race the car. And racing in motorsports, the reason it's had such a it's become very popular and it has so much to benefit from this popularity increase of sim racing is that as a sport, it's inherently very expensive to race, right? No matter if you're doing go-karts or you're driving stock cars or you want to be an F1 racer, it's expensive. And sim racing is vastly cheaper to do when it's virtual, and crashing the cars doesn't cost anything and that sort of thing. So it's definitely, I think, opened up a lot of people's eyes from the real motorsport it as a tool and less as something that's sort of a fun gaming thing, but also having fun with it. So Landon, I think that's a pretty good synopsis, but let me know if I missed anything.
That's a great one, and I'll add like two more points. One of them kind of similar to your first point, but that are maybe more on the technical side of things. So one thing I think that makes sim racing and real racing have a strong connection, or allows the two to have a strong connection, is the fact that in sim racing, the actual act of driving the car, even though you don't have the physical risks involved and the physical load on your body of driving a car through a high banked corner at 200 miles an hour, the actual act of driving the car in the sim world is the same, right? You're sitting, you're turning a steering wheel with your hands. I'm actually sitting on my couch, like in seating driving position right now, acting this out. You push the gas pedal with your right foot, you push the brake with your left foot. You turn the steering wheel, as opposed to playing maybe Madden football or something like that, where you're pushing a button to throw a ball.
Right.
And also the field of view is different, right? Like in a basketball video game, you're looking at the court from a different angle perspective than you would if you were actually playing it in real life, where in sim racing you're actually sitting in the car. So I feel like I always call sim racing isn't a matter of real racing versus not real racing. It's, to me, sim racing is real racing. It's just a different discipline of racing. It's racing in the virtual world. And then my second point of sim racing, I think, Parker, you kind of did touch on this, but I think it is important to note that um, in the real world, in the physical world of racing, our engineers and our teams are using simulation to develop faster race cars. So the infrastructure is there for simulated race cars. The technology, the talent, the way that they develop cars, the way that they try to build models and figure out what a real car does on the racetrack, but do it in the virtual world. We do that in order to build faster race cars. So to make a game version of that, I don't want to say is easy, but it's kind of an extension of what our engineers are doing in real life.
That's pretty wild, actually. I was when you're talking about that and you kind of picture it all happening. I'm thinking about virtual reality. I'm not sure if you guys have used something like the Oculus Quest, but it's giving your brain and eyeballs and ears input as to what's going on, and you can move your arms around.
Mm-hmm.
But because you don't feel your body moving around, it can make you dizzy. Now, I've obviously iRacing is super immersive the way that goes. Do you guys have any sort of tactile feedback or use a fan to kind of simulate wind or anything like that to make it more realistic for you, or is that just not even necessary once you get in the zone?
No, those are all cues that can be valuable, and it um, just depends on how you're using the application and how accurate it's being applied. So maybe to go a step aside from iRacing and look at what the manufacturers are doing for their full-size simulators. Obviously, they have way more resources and better data, and some of the big simulators, you're looking at driving a full-size cockpit of a car in a several thousand square foot room with a wraparound screen, and the car is moving and the room is dark, and you look at the screen. And in my experience developing with those simulators, I have used fans where, hoses that typically would blow in a real car, they create a fan that would blow in the same place so that you get the same sensation, or they have tensioners on the seat belts so that when you step on the brakes, the seat belts sort of tighten up as if it was like your body moving forward. Those are all things that that people in the sim world have tried to use to just recreate some of the same physical cues that you get from the real car.
Nice. I mean, this is such a deep conversation. I'm even thinking like, what's the difference? Is your blood pressure the same? Does your heart rate change in exactly the same way?
Ha!
It's funny. The brain
It does.
tricks you,
Yeah. Well, no, like I got to butt in here because I laugh about this all the time. So, Dave, you'll hear people all the time, and it's racing and iRacing, right? Like literally the one we do here at home. You'll hear drivers say, or I've had it often happen where it's like, I'm sweating more than I would in a real car that doing the simulated racing because it can be so intense, and it's, you're trying to be so perfect, and everything is so minute that the movements you're trying to make. And so you actually feel like it's more intense in that sense than being in the real car. Now, in the real car, we've got the external, especially in stock car racing, NASCAR, we have the heat, right? It can be up almost 150 degrees
Yeah.
on a hot day in cockpit. Like, you can't simulate that. No one's that crazy to try and do that. The only way you get ready for that is obviously like physical training. But
Right.
in terms of like your heart rate, like I wear, an Apple Watch and just look at my heart rate. And it's very funny that I'll have really intense sim races that literally match up to the real world in terms of heart rate. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing. And the one last piece of talking about simulation differences, and I don't know how you guys feel when you're driving the real car, but you have, when you're playing a simulator, you have to suspend your disbelief that you're going to crash, because there's no risk of that. I mean, I don't even know if you guys deal with it at that level in an actual car. Do you ever feel like, oh no, I'm going to crash, I need to be safe, or are you just focused on winning the race? What does a racer go through? How's that different from playing the simulator? Because you don't have that danger, right? When you're in a simulator.
I don't in a real car, I don't necessarily think that I go through the fear of crashing as much as it is the desire not to crash for performance reasons, right? Like I don't want to have a bad finish in the race. I don't think I'm fearing for my life by any means, which is, I'm sure that there's a case study to be had about race car drivers in that or any kind of competitor in that space. Because if I was fearing for my safety, then it's just it would be a lap after lap thing, and it would slow you down to the point that you wouldn't be a competitive race car driver. So for me, it's a matter of like, I don't want to crash because I don't want to ruin my race, and that's no different for me in a sim race than it is in a real race. Because in a sim race, if you crash, you can't fix your car and you don't win.
Right. Cool. Well, unfortunately,
I'd say
move on a little bit, I think, because you guys have a lot of interesting things to talk about, and it's fascinating to me. And it gets worse as we go deeper, guys, because here's this question. Do you ever get input on the development of these simulators or in development of other racing games because of who you are?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Parker and I have both been pretty deep in the sim world for many years. I've been a part of the development of Chevy Simulator on the manufacturer side. On the gaming side, I've helped with iRacing many times through the development of their sim, and been a part of their teams that test up and coming products. I actually, when iRacing was a brand new company, I provided the data to them, all the setup and aerodynamic data for the trucks when they initially built the trucks.
Nice.
I was driving for a team that went to the wind tunnel and had that data, and they were happy to provide that for me. So to help iRacing out. So we have good relationships at iRacing. They do a wonderful job, and their core value is, or their core fundamental, whatever you'd say, is to build a simulation, right? Like, they don't think of their product as a game. They think of it as a simulation, and they treat it that way. So they really value the input of real drivers.
Well, it's definitely interesting, because there is no other way for somebody like me, who, even if, no matter how high of an enthusiast I might be, to have the same experience that you guys get as racers, except to also participate in a high level simulator. So it may be a niche market, but I'm sure that the development experience and the tech stuff that comes out of it benefits, a lot of other parts of the industry as well.
Definitely. And I think, one thing that, as you alluded to, for us being drivers, I think the other thing that we offer to, in my time I'm similar background to Landon, I helped Toyota with their simulator development, and then iRacing. I think I was a part of like the initial alpha testing all the way basically 12 years ago, whatever it was. And have been, part of the beta testing at times, just helping them figure out how stuff should drive. But I think, they also, when you look at a simulation of motorsports has an incredible amount of variables, right? From the track temperature to the sand on the track to the tires. Like, a tire is one of the most complex things on the planet to try and simulate, to just all the different variables out there. And therefore, it's sometimes, I think, helpful for us real racers to sort of lead them in a direction and say, hey, if you can only have 2,000 of those variables. Here's what the really important ones are, right? To what you're trying to simulate. And I think that's something that I've seen over the last decade of sims where they've made really good decisions in working with real drivers, is to say, okay, what's really important and what really doesn't have an effect and is sort of something that we're never going to be able to simulate anyway. And I think that's been something that's allowed them to get really realistic and be, enjoyable for the everyday person.
That's an interesting way to look at it. But yeah, I guess you have to define limits about how far you're going to go with something. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a great way to kick off. I'm going to reset the room real quick. For anybody who's joined after we started, we're talking tonight about basically game development, a little bit of cryptocurrency, iRacing, NASCAR with Landon Castle and Parker Klagerman. And it's been a fascinating conversation so far. I understand some people are having some trouble joining, but that's okay. That's what these things are for. And my name's Dave Young. I'm the founder of the Game Developers Group on Facebook, and this is a really interesting conversation. The next thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit, now that we've talked about NASCAR, iRacing, and simulators, are outside of that kind of world, what are some of your favorite games to play that have come out in the last, say, 2 or 3 years? What's your favorite game of all time?
Ooh, all right. So I gotta go down a couple paths. One, my favorite of all time. This is a really weird one, and I'm gonna test your knowledge of maybe first-person shooters. But there was a game by Nova Logic called Joint Operations, back in the early 2000s.
Okay,
And Typhoon. What's that?
I missed that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did not play that one, so fail for me.
All right, it was by Typhoon Rising, and it was one of the first multiplayer first-person shooters that you could have 150 players multiplayer. Nice. And I think I spent a tremendous amount of time on that game when I was younger. And then there was, the console stuff like SOCOM and everything. And then I would say modern day, I do enjoy the modern day Battlefields and the Call of Duty Warzones. I did buy that recently. And I think if there was like stuff that's a little bit more like also just arcade style, would be like the Trackmania game. I find that sort of stuff really fun. So that's sort of I'm either first person shooters or race cars, basically.
Gotcha.
That's really my gaming background.
I'm going to shout out KT again because in the top row there's Kevin Thompson, and I play Modern Warfare with him sometimes, and my back is still sore from carrying him in the.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'll since Parker listed a couple games, for me it's mostly racing games. And when I was a kid, I played a game. Talking about Trackmania, I played a game called Revolt, which was an RC car racing game.
Yes.
And I loved that game because it had a track builder, and you could build all these really cool tracks. But because I'm a NASCAR stock car type guy, I would just build a simple little oval track and I would race them like a normal NASCAR oval, but I would use the cheat codes to play a version called Clockwork Challenge, which was like these little mini cars, and they would have a field of like 60 of them or something like that, and it was pure chaos, but it was a lot of fun. So I used to play that game when I was a kid. And then NASCAR Racing 2003 is the OG NASCAR sim game that everybody loves. That was the game that I cut my sim racing teeth on. But really, the best racing game of all time to me is Super Mario Kart in Super Nintendo.
One of the questions that already came in is, who's your favorite Mario Kart character?
Yoshi.
Yeah. I don't know. I like racing as Mario. I'm a basic guy.
The fastest.
I'm a simple guy.
He's the fastest. I've been playing N64.
Mushroom was the fastest, I thought. I always thought. But...
No. You want Yoshi, I thought. Well, Mushroom's the fast. Yes, right. He's the fastest. But we've been playing. A friend of my brother's has an N64, and so actually during they all live in where I live in this building, so we played a lot of Mario Kart during that time. So
yeah, I liked it on Super Nintendo. So I've got one in the house, and actually 1 year that was literally what my wife asked for Christmas was a Super Nintendo, so she got one, and so we played it a lot together.
Yeah, there's something about sitting around with your buddies or family or relatives or whatever and playing socially still. That was always been one of the coolest things. We still try and recreate those things in modern day games. You know.
Yeah, what a weird thing to say, isn't it?
It is. It is. But yeah, I mean, the cool thing about Mario 2, right, is that it's not all about being fast. It's about other strategies as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So it'd be interesting to take some of those elements into the real world. Probably very expensive.
I think
Uh,
what's the Rainbow Road track would have been really hard to make happen. I don't know if we can build a track in space yet. I don't
somebody's
know.
gonna try and do. Oh, actually, that's probably Elon Musk's end game, probably.
It
That
Like,
could
and
be.
now
must
we're on
be.
Mars.
It's Rainbow Road in space.
That's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk first-person shooters, for example. You got a new Battlefield coming out. Have you guys seen the trailer for it?
I actually did. Now I won't lie. I actually I don't know if you have this, and I'd be curious for someone like yourself that's so entwined in the gaming world. But it feels like we're getting a new one every year now. Are we? Is that like not the Battlefield, but the Call of Duties obviously coming out? I know they're split up by different developers and that sort of thing, but
Yeah, I
they're
mean
coming
that's
out
it.
so often.
Yeah.
It's wild, you know. But I did see the new Battlefield trailer, and I will say the only other thing with the trailers that gets me is they become so cinematic now that like half the time I've seen like I think in the last couple of years I've watched some of these and thought like, am I watching a movie or is this the gameplay? Like what am I getting here? Like,
It's like
and
all
it's
bets are
awesome.
off these days. I mean, the budgets to make these things, it's like launching a Hollywood film,
Oh yeah,
but with more
yeah,
research. So they're going to spend a couple $100 million to make it. They're going to spend a couple $100 million to market it and hope that it has a lifespan with people doing in-app purchase and stuff like that to monetize. But they
yeah.
cannibalize their own audience from title to title. And you also have to make sure they're either launching on opposite years from your primary rivals or competing with some new feature. And
Mm.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's got to be tough to because people do get bored. They play a lot. I mean, I actually will play a game forever, and I've been playing Battlefield since Battlefield 1942, like the old one. uh, yeah, and I'll play that forever. But yeah, playing the new ones is a lot of fun, and people will switch. But when you switch, you used to have the problem of you lose your gaming buddies, but now that we've got online ways to kind of keep things together and keep clans going and keep tournaments going, it's not so much of a problem. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, big budgets on those games. Our game development community really, it's a lot of people doing independent work, and sometimes we help people get together into teams because you can do more together, usually. But usually, the game developer group are people doing casual games. You'll get people doing online games, sometimes first-person shooters if there's some pre-made stuff. But it's really for the independent guy or girl who wants to learn how to make games, put a team together, and then when they finally have hit that finish line, to be able to put out a video of it and let it get promoted and stuff like that. So it's really
Awesome.
people reaching for the stars. And guys,
Mm.
what they really hope to do in success is to get the attention of one of the big gaming companies and say, I worked for 2 or 3 years hard on my thing. I put it out, and then you get hired by Blizzard or Activision. But there are a lot more jobs in the gaming world than there were 10 years ago. But it is still hard to get in the door. It is still hard.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's great what you're doing
Park
here then.
Parker and I are big supporters of a new game called Circuit Superstars, which is a really fun little. What's the perspective that you call that game, Parker?
Top
The
down.
top
Top
down.
down.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really fun like top down racing game.
Oh
Uh, but
yeah.
but the
Yep.
cars, the physics of the cars are intended to be as realistic as possible. So it's not like a arcadey type top down game. It's like a top down game with realistic type cars. It's still but it's very charming. The artwork is very charming. The cars look gamey. So it
Yep.
has a really good mix of real world and gamey stuff. And Parker and I just are huge fans of the game. We've connected with the developers and would love to do something with them someday through our eraser brand.
That's awesome. I'm looking at this. I saw this a couple of years back. I'm glad it finally got released. I didn't even notice it got released. But what's interesting is this style of game because it became popular on mobile. when it was hard to do first-person driving games. So these kind of games with a top-down perspective came out because they were easier to put on the devices. The graphics intensity was not as much, if you will. So they would run on more devices. But they're
Yeah.
super fun, right? Because it's like a whole different way of trying to control things. You're going to overshoot, all that. But I'm looking at the way the game is set up, and there's a lot of opportunity there for branding, just like you have in all other racing games, and plenty of screen space to do things in. But for anybody who's listening who is interested in game development, Unity has an asset pack that has a starter pack that's just like this for top-down racing. I think it's made by More Mountain for like $70. You can buy a pack that gets you like a baseline game that will work for top-down racing style games, and then customize it.
That's awesome.
Interesting. We should talk about that as part of the game development exercise they've planned for you guys.
Well, we want to give if anyone from the game development community is listening, we have a game that we both loved that was a Flash app game, Flash, and it was the simplest game ever, but it was one of the greatest racing games of all time. So, and we wanted someone to bring it back, and because Flash is gone, and I was like, if someone could recreate this, it would be epic, and it would be so popular. Because it was like a cult classic, but I guess we're basically saying, hey, if anyone's out there and wants to do that, we'd love to see it happen. So,
a lot of those old Flash games, I ran some massive Flash game publishing sites that had like hundreds of games on them, so I'm very familiar. And I spent a lot of time deving. A lot of us have moved over to Unity to do web-based casual games, and that's what the Play Crew is actually focused on, is web-based stuff for crypto. But yeah, so that's probably another separate conversation. We're just kind of earmarking these out. But I'm sure there are a few people I see a couple of people here in my Discord raising their hands that are interested in talking about that. That's pretty wild.
Awesome.
Yeah, actually, that's right. Thinking about when you guys grew up, there were all kinds of awesome Flash games out. And that's probably what you spent your time doing after school, right?
Yeah, send them our way. We definitely want to recreate NASCAR. We'd love to do it.
NASCAR is the one. Okay. Speaking of NASCAR, it is 7:32. I don't know how pressed for time we are, but we're going to keep trucking. I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me when you're
I got all the time in the world, so
okay.
We're good.
Love to hear it. We'll finish this up at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard.
You got it. You got it. I'm a bachelor tonight. Parker knows me better than anybody. And normally, 7:30 might be kids going to bed, but normally you'll be hearing some kids or screaming or some chaos in the background. But I'm solo at the house tonight, so you guys have my full attention.
I've got my kids cleaning downstairs, cleaning Legos. So I figured that would be the best way to keep them occupied during.
Wow, that's awesome! What a legend.
Okay, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is a little something crypto related. Actually, let me kind of reset the room a little bit for anybody who's joining still. We're talking about game development, cryptocurrency, NASCAR, iRacing with Landon Castle and Parker Klagerman. The next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is what do you, in 1 minute or less, what do you guys know about cryptocurrency and blockchain gaming?
1 minute or less, Parker.
Go. Oh, I'm first. Oh, you're the crypto guy. Okay, that's fine. From what I know about blockchain and crypto gaming, I've seen the NFTs be used in a way for like the horse racing game was it called Zed or whatever, to be used as like you can own the horse and trade the horse and anything, which I think is awesome. So I definitely see that use for it. And then I obviously understand that, there is some crypto coins that maybe have been developed to be sort of the monetary system within games. But I definitely think that NFT one is the coolest. So that's what I understand. Did I do well? Is that
it is. And I'm asking that question to kind of frame where your knowledge level is at so that we can set a little topic up without going back to 101 stuff. So we're way past 101 stuff, obviously, there.
My knowledge of crypto as it pertains to gaming, I think that gaming is the OG cryptocurrency because games have been creating their own in-game currencies forever.
Yes.
And And it's really, I think that the advent of cryptocurrency as it pertains to blockchain in the last couple of years has really just opened the door for that same sort of model to be applied to any other traditional world or any other
Bam.
traditional
Wow.
business.
That is exactly right. So, okay. All right. Now we've got a couple of things to talk about.
Yeah, let's
That's
go.
why he's the crypto guy.
That's right. And for anybody who doesn't know, did something happen with you in the world of crypto this spring, perhaps?
Yes, so I just signed a crypto-related sponsor. I guess if you're looking at there's a big, pretty picture of myself in the middle of the screen. It says Voyager on my fire suit. So I just signed a crypto sponsorship. I'm now sponsored by Voyager, the brokerage platform, crypto brokerage platform. And you can download Voyager, use promo code Landon. I'm not self-promoting anything there per se, but you can buy and sell up to 60 or more cryptocurrencies on Voyager's platform. So I have been in crypto for a number of years. I've done a little bit of everything in this space. I've bought it, I've sold it, I've mined it. I had a modest mining farm, a Bitcoin and Litecoin and
Nice.
other coins mining farm for a number of years. So I've managed that before, and so I've just been in the space. I loved it, and several years ago, I really kind of set out to make connections in the space and decided that I wanted it to be a part of my professional career as well, not just my personal portfolio. And that's where I started networking and speaking at crypto conferences. And so I met the CEO of Voyager a couple of years ago, Steve Ehrlich, when that company was just getting started. And we built a relationship and started talking about what a NASCAR crypto sponsorship would look like. And ultimately, it led to this year where we just did our first deal together and they paid for their sponsorship in cryptocurrency. So I accepted Bitcoin, Litecoin, and then their native token, Voyager token, as sponsorship for my race car.
Excellent. So one of the things that you said really resonated with me, and that is that video games have been doing crypto for a while. Now, when most people hear the term cryptocurrency, they think hacker, something they saw on TV, like some guy in a black hoodie, like with his face glowing, some nerd typing some things. That is cryptocurrency to most of the world, because really only there's a very small percentage of people who are learning about it, etc. But for people who take it functionally, cryptocurrency is a way to have an economy, if you will. And he's absolutely right. Games have had their own economies for many years, going way back as virtual currencies like World of Warcraft, where you can buy and sell and earn currency, and then have even exchanges where you can take that currency out of the game, exchange it with some other thing, and then do that. So that's pretty awesome, because that is what a lot of people will do when they do trading, is they'll trade Litecoins or altcoins with Bitcoin and move them back and forth with projects that they have meaning with. And for anybody in the audience who's not aware, an NFT, we've said that term a few times, that represents a non-fungible token, which is a really weird sounding term, which just means something that's very unique. That is, well, actually unique. So if you hold a non-fungible token, it's like holding a key. It could represent a virtual horse that you race in a race. It could represent, a picture of Landon or Parker, which you own. It could be a quote of his or anything. So it could be a meme that you saw on the internet that you own. But the interesting about these is that they can be traded and sold independently and do all kinds of other weird things. One of the projects that we're working with NFTs is actually let somebody hold an NFT that entitles them to a percentage of profits for some of the games that we make, for example. So they can be used for all kinds of different things. But the term NFT and non-fungible token has gotten a lot of people interested in crypto this year because they've seen people sell and buy artworks for huge amounts of money. So that's one of the interesting things about the crypto space, that it's kind of hard sometimes to transform your cryptocurrency into dollars or fiat currency. So if you have things that you can spend that crypto on, like NFTs or events or whatever, it makes it really interesting and gives off-ramps to economy. So I guess that was a long-winded way of introducing this next question, which is, how do you see NFTs maybe playing a role in gaming in the future? you've seen Zed, and you probably heard some other projects. What are some of the more interesting uses of NFTs that you've seen or heard about?
I think that I think that in gaming, NFTs are probably a really good first app in early application, because I still like the idea of owning an NFT that represents a JPEG of something in just the general internet. I still struggle with that a little bit, right? I get the novelty of it. I fully understand the blockchain, the scarcity of the token itself, but actually owning the image, it's like you can copy and paste it. I'm still tripping over that, but I feel like in the gaming world, where you could own an NFT of a certain skin, right? Or, Parker and I talk about it all the time in sim racing. You could, well, it is a skin, right? Like your paint scheme on your car. If you could own that as an NFT, to where the only way to run that on a car is by owning the keys to that token, then it creates value in that skin. And let's say in iRacing, you have a painter who is a really valuable car painter. His time is valuable. The people like using that painter, and that painter paints paint schemes and sells them as NFTs. And then the only way to run that paint scheme in the game is by buying the NFT. Well, I think you've created this extremely valuable marketplace for that painter's work, right? And
That's right.
I think that that's an extremely good application for NFTs, that sim racing or any other game where there's a skin, first person shooter, the skin of a weapon or your shield or your outfit, whatever it is. I think that's an awesome application. So now you can start thinking of all the other different pieces within those games that can be traded as non-fungible, which means one of a kind, basically can't be diluted.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to be said there, right? So for Parker, sorry to suck up all the air here, Parker. I'll give you a chance to talk. Um, for Parker and I with eRacer in our community, we would love to have an idea of an NFT that represents our community members standing within the community, right? Maybe it's a badge, or maybe it's an accomplishment, maybe it's a trophy, something that says, I'm the person that won this, I'm the only one that owns this NFT, and here's my name on it. That would be a kind of a cool thing to make.
Definitely.
Yep.
Have you
And
guys looked into? Oh, go ahead, Parker. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say I agree with all that, and I think the only other thing, where when you speak the sim racing side with NFTs is, and I think it's been done, within games. We've seen where, like, obviously in racing games you can buy, a faster engine or all that stuff, but I think there's an opportunity for some of the, for people to create similar things to what you see with Zed, but doing it on a racing side where it's maybe engines and or different body on the car or unique chassis for the car, and it becomes very realistic, like real life, and creating that sort of market. So I do see that there is some people working on things like that I don't particularly want to be a part of, because we deal with that in real life, but I can see where people trying to mimic real life, that could allow it to happen. So I'll let you go where you were going before.
Oh, thanks. I just think that you guys have nailed it on the head. In your fan base, in your community, there are people who are super fans. There are people who do want to spend the money to own something unique, and they're not always super unique. Maybe it's scarce. Maybe there's 10 of them or one of them, but it's
Right.
definitely scarce. And they want to be that guy that says, "Look at me, I've got it." To have those bragging rights. But in your communities now, have you guys ever heard of like creator coins or social tokens?
Say that one more
Yes.
time. Create.
Okay.
Do what?
Creator coins or social tokens. It's similar to cryptocurrency, but it's a little bit different. So
I
basically,
think that is there a platform?
Yes.
I think there's platforms out there that are trying to create ways to reward the creators through cryptocurrency, maybe.
It goes, yeah, it's a little bit of both. I'll just explain it quickly because it ties into this whole conversation. There's a platform called Rally.io, and what they do is they have creators, and you guys are actually considered creators because you have your own communities, you create content, you create following, you create excitement. You're a creator. Our Facebook game developers community is a community of creators. and you were talking about how you wish you had an NFT where you could show different levels of I forget the expression, but I turned it into the word holding, because you can reward people, for example, for holding a certain number of a Parker coin, for example, and have them in your Discord or whatever it is, and have them collect that and use it to get access to special events, or to buy your NFTs, or to just have a title even, by having a certain number of coins. So that platform is called Rally, and it's super interesting for people who do have communities and are interested in making their own NFTs. So it's really cool. I can intro you to that at some point in time if you like. But if you have a community, it's a really fun way. We're trying to integrate it into our Facebook game development community as well, to reward people for just being good community members. Like here's 20 Play Coin. That's the name of our coin. Where I got the name Play. I feel lucky to have gotten that. But here's 20 Play Coin for answering that question about C++ programming, that kind of stuff. And we're kicking off a big game jam this month where we're going to give away like $10,000 worth of Playcoin for people who are pitching ideas and then going forward and making them with teams. So you can use these sort of, and as we're basically building our own economy in the community around cryptocurrency to benefit the community. So it's just a pretty awesome way to sort of tie things together. And then we'll let people use that token to play their games just like you would in an arcade. So it's kind of neat. And we can share the rewards with everybody. So it's a way for you as a creator to bring your community in, and everybody shares and rewards, so to speak.
That's very cool. If there's one thing that I've learned about crypto, especially lately, is just the topic of community and the power of community. When we started our sponsorship with Voyager, one of their initiatives that they want to focus on is going, through these communities, these powerful crypto communities, and engaging with them, because those communities are, everybody. On one hand, you have crypto where it's like this investment and Bitcoin and long term and digital gold, but in a lot of ways, these other crypto projects, they are about communities, and people want to be a part of their tribe, and they want to be a part of these communities, and they want to strengthen their communities, and it's at first it might seem we engaged with through Voyager was the Shiba Inu community, and it just was kind of organic because they listed Shiba Inu on their platform at the same time that we announced the sponsorship. And the Shiba Inu community is a very well organized and high energy community that started engaging with me on social media, and I started responding, and next thing you know, I'm in like all these private Telegram groups and Instagram group messages, and we're talking about cryptocurrency, and they're making graphics for me, and like have kind of adopted me as their own in this community. But this is a large community of people that are building something, and they're building towards, they've like rallied together to build this token that can have an actual use case on the blockchain, right?
That's amazing. Yeah.
Ultimately, to a lot of people it might seem silly, but ultimately they want a decentralized exchange with their token, right? And that's possible, and that's what their developers are working on.
And it brings everybody closer together, right? It's like you have your own economy tied around your central topic, which is amazing. And for us, it's game development and playful experiences for kids and scouts and things like that. We just sent a few kids to summer camp, for example, by giving away some of our coins so they could pay to go to summer camp, to Boy Scout camp, because it's expensive these days,
right?
So anyway, it's just a really awesome thing to do, and I'd love to show you guys a little bit more. It's called Rally. So you said the word Rally. It's called Rally.io.
I'm on it right now.
Yeah. Okay, now for something really fun. It's 7:49. I am going to try and wrap up around 8-ish to respect other people's time. Now for something fun. It's something I thought of originally when when they said, "Oh, you're going to meet a couple of NASCAR drivers," and I'm like, "This is going to be great." I want to spitball with you guys about a game idea, okay? And kind of take you through the ideation process of what it would be like to create a game, okay? All right. So first, some simple questions. One, Parker, what kind of game would you like to make?
What do I have to choose a genre or just like
Yes,
anything?
let's choose a genre, and it could be the way you put the movie. It could be like Battlefield, but with slime. Okay, so do a little something like that.
All right. Race cars, but on the moon.
Okay. Okay. Race cars, but on the moon. Okay, and are we going to have? Okay, and who's it going to be for? Is it going to be for people who've never raced before or experienced racers?
Yeah, for the general public, for fun. Mario Kart users. We're making the next Mario Kart.
Okay, good. And when do you want to? This is for for both of you guys. When do you think is a good time to launch the game?
Winter.
Christmas, of course. Yes.
Christmas, yeah.
Christmas, a great time to launch a game, and there are a lot of games that get released early around Christmas for that reason. Okay. And is it going to be free to play, or is it going to be ad driven, or will people buy things inside the game?
Free to play, but it'll have its own crypto coin. You have to buy everything within the game.
Excellent. I love that.
It's the freemium model.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Landon. I just took that one over. It's never before seen situation for my game here.
Never before. Okay, so we've got only a few months to make this thing, including getting the time together to do it. So that means we're going to have to probably kill some features. So all we know about it so far is that it's on the moon. It's a racing game. So is it just like a racing game where it's is it zero grav, or is it's set in the moon, but you have to there's gravity and you have to just realize that you're in outer space?
No, I definitely think the gravity needs to mimic the gravity of the moon. That's
Okay.
the key gameplay feature.
All right, Landon. When we make a game, you have a combination of UI artists, of 3D modelers, of programmers, and then actually people who will test, and then audio engineers. So like all those pieces have to come together to make a game. We've got 4 months. We could probably just find some people to do it in the game developers group. But here's the problem. It's a spare time thing. Nobody knows if it's going to be a success or not. And this is a challenge that indie teams face, is that if you're going to put your time and sweat into something, you want something out of it. Either it's going to be you're doing it for the experience, or you're doing it to get paid, or you hope that when the game is released, it's going to be successful. So some combination of that. Are we going to offer people theoretical? Are we going to offer people money to make the game? Or are we going to ask them to come because they believe in it?
I think that because this is the internet, on the internet we do things for the lulz. So we need to do it in a way that our developers are doing it for the lulz.
Okay, so we don't need funding. We're not going to need funding to make this game. That makes things a lot easier. We'll probably use the Unity game engine because a lot of people know how to use that one. It's inexpensive. There's actually a free version, or you can pay, I think it's $150 a month to use the professional version. Either way, those are both doable, and you should get people to help out. So we want 2 coders, 1 guy making a UI, somebody doing audio. Do you know anybody who can do music?
I think we could find somebody.
network?
Well, we can use social media. Maybe we can use social media to find a musician.
There you go. Who wants to be the score for our game?
Okay, so now we're already starting to put the word out. We're audience building. Now people on social media know that a racing game is coming out, led by Landon and Parker, and it's going to be awesome. It's coming out near Christmas, and we want a best musician. So this is great. You're actually starting to build an audience, which guess what is going to be super important. This is a piece that most indie developers never remember to do until it's too late, is actually start to build their audience. And that's actually one of the things that our community helps with is helping people realize where their weaknesses might be. Because we're old guys. I've been doing this since I was born in the 70s, so I am an 80s kid. But I worked in a few AAA companies, and so is my team. So we're able to come in and help some of the people who are newer sort of figure out you're really good here, but you're a little weak there, and here's how to shore that strength up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're using the community to kind of figure out our weaknesses, build an audience, get our pieces together. Here's the kicker. We don't necessarily need to go build custom. Because we're using Unity, we can actually go buy some car models from the Unity asset store. But they're red. All the cars are either red or blue. What can we do about making those unique?
Wow. Do we need a design? Are you saying we need to find a designer to
We
redesign the
could,
cars?
but it might also be an opportunity to get a sponsor or figure out if we're
Oh,
going to have purchasable skins that we can put on the cars.
There you
And
go.
that factors into how we're going to monetize with the game too.
There you
So
go.
which direction do you want to go, or do you want to go both?
Let's
we
can we
love
create a
sponsors. So
Parker loves sponsors, and I was gonna say, can we create a paint shop?
yeah, there you go.
People can paint their own cars and maybe sell them. We can just we can charge a piece of the sale of every car.
A little piece of the action. I like that. That's really good, actually. And actually, if you make those paint jobs NFTs, there it is again. People can trade them even after they buy them.
Dave, I think we're gonna miss our Christmas deadline though.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is
I feel like we have to.
yes.
We're getting over bloated here, guys.
So it's user-generated content, i.e., it's called UGC. You'll have to have tools to make that. So you're right. Anytime you make tools, it's a risk factor. So we'll start by hoping that we do that, and maybe we'll put that into our marketing materials, just like Battlefield would, but not actually release it on the day.
There you go.
But plan to do that. So
Tease,
we just
a
had to
good
kill one
tease.
of our darlings. That was actually one of the script questions written weeks ago, was how to kill one of your darlings. You called it out. Good job. Okay, so to get started and prioritize, and knowing that we're bringing an audience in, do you think it's a good idea to bring people into the development of the game early, like as you're getting going, or wait till you have something solid to show them?
Build in public. I like that.
It's a
I
very
don't know.
polarizing question.
Yeah, I think I've always thought, I don't know, I just think that I see that the things or people or companies that, build stuff in public, and if you're that confident in what you're doing, it's I think it's a powerful thing, and it can, as Landon alluded to, the community aspect, it can, part of the process of making that thing. So I think it's something that can only be beneficial. And as you said, the marketing side may be the hardest side. So that I think it's free marketing in that sense.
And I think we're hearing that from a race car driver who exudes confidence. You can't be a weak-minded person and strap yourself in behind. So that's a confident answer. And I agree with that one completely.
Well, I think that maybe this is a deep psychological theory of the difference between wanting to make the game you want to make and hoping that people like it versus wanting to just make a game that people like.
Excellent. So what does that mean exactly? And a lot of people will do that. I worked on a game for like 12 months once. It was a spell casting game, very unique. It was a mobile game. You had to draw the symbol of the spell. It would be multiplayer. It took me 12 months to make it, and I only got like 50 downloads. And I had zero. It was going to be great, but I had zero market research to say it's going to be great. And the market told me your game is not a good game. Your game sucks. But that's the way it works. Is a lot of the guys will come. I say guys, but we have a lot of girls in our community as well. A lot of people will come in and make a game that they love, that they want to play, and that's how people usually get started. But then they just get very upset and disappointed. But you know what? In this case, the journey is really part of the battle, as part of the fun, part of the experience. All the stuff you learned making it makes you more valuable as a team member, as a person. So if you do want to do a market-driven game that you know is going to be commercially viable, like that's a whole other thing. So it's a pretty tricky decision to make. Am I going to do something that I love, or am I going to do something I think is going to support me financially? Tough one. I guess that's why a lot of developers are hobbyists as well.
Do you think of the games? Do you think of the game sometimes as art? If they build the game they want to build.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and
you
see those on Steam a lot, the very artistic games, and those games will often get heralded by press. When they're done, and they talk about an important world issue or cancer or something like that, or if it's just super unique. But yeah, it's fun to work on games. It can be heartbreaking for you not to. I mean, and then I had a game I spent a weekend on that got 250,000 downloads. You know, it's like sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you hope it will. But I'm happy for both of those experiences. Okay. Great answers to those questions, guys. Now, here's the kicker. Who would be your dream celebrity to help market the game?
Who's gonna market our moon racing game? Elon Musk.
There's only one
Yeah.
person missing from the group. It's Elon Musk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Piece of cake.
That's fine. If somebody just suggested David Hasselhoff, I don't know if he's in for that still. Oh, man. Let's see. So there were some people who did post some questions. But before we take some questions, there's just a few of them. And before we take some questions, is there something that you guys wanted to know about game development or about the game development community that I can kind of talk about now?
I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you alluded to it, but you know the indie developer thing, you know, it seems it's a little foreign to us, obviously, because I think you know the games that most of us interact with often are obviously the ones with huge marketing and the big box stuff and highly funded. But for the but then Landon and I in the last couple of years have obviously found some of those indie games, and I'm sure when I was younger I played some of them and didn't realize it or played those flash games. Do you think it's something that's like a market that's growing and has grown a ton and is growing, or is it a market that's just becoming very competitive as well, trying to compete against the bigger ones?
That's interesting. And the reason why it's interesting is because Flash was one of the first tools that anybody could download or buy and make something with and compete with whoever. So it leveled the playing field a little bit. All you have to do is pop something up on a website, right? Or put it onto one of the gaming sites, Congregate or wherever, if you remember that one. There was some others too.
Yeah.
But when the iPhone came out, it did level the playing field a bit because I can pay $100 per year to Apple. I can get a Mac. I can get Xcode, which is what you need to develop, and then something called Unity. Unity is a really great tool with a lot of courses, et cetera, that lets me build something to compete. However, they're still going to have bigger teams. They're going to have a bigger budget for art. They're going to have a bigger budget for marketing. So you have to be able to build your audience or market them. There are companies to help you all the way. If you do have a game that's unique or that that is really done well or that has a very simple mechanic and you don't try and bite off more than you can chew, you can compete. You maybe not be able to make a $10 million game unless it's a lightning strike, but it can be a lifestyle supporter. And we have lots of people in the community who are full-time game developers that are indies. So you don't always need to have the backing of the big project. But what it lets you do also is move your career from indie to pro. If you have created some and finished some projects, that says a lot. A lot of people in this world never finish anything. They never even try. You know, so if you try and make something and put it out there and it's good or bad and you put a couple of revisions on it, then a company can look at you and say, well, look, you've done a thing and you put your personal work into it. So it can be viable. It can give you a couple of great steak dinners, or it can support you for a year or two. I'm a full-time game developer. I don't have any smashing successes, but even learning the technology, guys, lets you learn so many awesome things that it can help you with any industry.
That's awesome.
Ad tech, game tech, science, just so many things. Game development touches everything just about.
That's awesome. All right, yeah, I answered it. You made it clear. So,
well, that's my job, is to make things clear, except when I'm saying really confusing things. All right.
You know, it sounds to me like any other small business, right? Like you have these skills and you have to execute on them and wear a lot of hats at the same time, right? And it's hats that you never thought you would wear, but you know, you're not just indie game developer, but you're self-promoter, marketer, accountant, all of those things in one.
Exactly. I think usually if somebody can code, like that's when they'll start making games. And then after that come art skills, which are harder to come by. I'm a terrible artist myself, so I have to buy all my art unless I work with somebody. And the third is marketing. That is a skill that is super valuable to game developers. So in that order, people will try and make something and launch it into the world. And that's where it's great that a lot of companies have come out to say, we'll help you with your marketing, we'll help you with your artwork. But if you ignore it all and just expect to put your game up on iPhone and 1 million people play it, you will be disappointed. So that's kind of one of the devil's advocate things that we do for people, to say, don't forget the end game. Don't forget the publishing a game is just as important as creating it. Is just as important. If nobody showed up to the races, would there be any budgets for sponsors? No, there wouldn't.
That's a hard no.
Yeah, that's a hard no. So promoting it is just as important as actually doing it. So big lesson to learn there. And that's business stuff that most game developers never even paying attention to till too late. But yeah, that's what the community is for. We're here to give people hard answers and not just the happy answers too. Okay. Question from the audience. Who's the most famous race car driver you have raced against?
Well, myself.
Is this a loaded question?
Yeah, it's pretty loaded, but I guess you can say the most popular driver in America was for the last, up until a couple years ago when he retired, was Dale Earnhardt Jr. We've both raced against him, but I've actually, a couple years ago I raced against Sebastian Vettel, who's a F1 driver, and four-time F1 world champion. And then just 2 weeks ago, I actually did a sim racing event with McLaren, where I raced against Landon Norris, who just finished third at the most recent F1 race. So that would be my three, if you were to say like the most famous drivers I've raced against.
For myself, it would definitely be the same NASCAR guys that Parker listed off, because I've spent my entire career racing against Dale Jr. and Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon. At times, I've even raced with them and for them. I was Jimmy Johnson's test driver early on in my career. But to kind of get a little abstract like Parker did, back in 2009, I competed at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which I didn't necessarily race against these certain drivers, but I spent a lot of time with and went up the same hill as Sterling Moss and sat next to Sterling at dinner, and
nice.
And several other very legendary drivers like Dan Gurney as well. So it was pretty incredible experience for me.
Yeah, that must be pretty amazing. I mean, I know that you guys have a lot of different, well, now that the world is getting back to normal, a lot of real life events where you can mingle again. Is there as much smack talking between teams as I would imagine it to be? And rivalry?
Depends who it is.
Yeah.
You race. There's a golden rule in stock car racing: race others how you want to be raced. But often, people try to take advantage of that. So, I'd say, yeah, there's ones for a reason they race you hard and they don't like you or you don't like them, and that can those definitely fester. So,
I like that. That's kind of a code, if you will, an honor code, because lives are on the line. I guess that's probably where it came from.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, we race against the same competitors every single week for 40 weeks out of the year, right? So it's not like other sports where you only see that other team once or twice a year.
Never really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Landon also has what's the number one rules of NASCAR racing, Landon?
Oh yes, don't try to wreck someone and or learn how to wreck someone without wrecking yourself.
Yep.
They probably have that in wrestling too, I bet.
Yeah, there you go.
Are there any, what are you looking forward to the most over the next 6 months?
I think for Parker and I, we both have a lot of exciting stuff going on our own with our own racing. Obviously, I have my new Voyager sponsorship and all the exciting plans that they have that we talk about, and Parker has similar stuff for himself as well, and then really the things that we do together with eRacer and our sim racing community. We just had our marquee event of the season, the Firecracker 400, but we have another big name sim racing event called the Landon Castle Qualifying Challenge, and that's where we will put up a large prize pool for sim racers to go after. And we broadcast it all ourselves on our eRacer Twitch channel, and we engage with our community that way. And so we've got a lot going on over the next 6 months for sure.
That is awesome. I didn't know you guys had Twitch channels. I did not do my thorough research. How often do you guys get on there?
We do a lot with eRacer. We do a lot with our community there. So we have our marquee events over the course of the season. We have a 6-race series called the eRacer Roval Racing Series coming up, which are where our community is going to compete in kind of a 6-week league. And then we each have personal Twitches as well. So my Twitch page, I think, maybe has like 10,000 followers, and I'm on there.
10K bomb.
I'm on there somewhere close to it, and I'm on there from time to time, and whenever I'm sim racing or something, I'll hop on the stream. I've even done some cycling on Zwift on the stream as well, which is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Actually, a lot of the people in the rally community are Twitch streamers, so there's a lot of tools for because there's you got your Twitch subs and other ways to monetize. So it's one of the more interesting things to check out. Where can people go? Because this is going to get recorded and spread around. I promise you. Where can people go to find more about your communities?
Yeah, so eracer.gg is our website for all our big sim racing events, which is we have basically a Daytona 500-esque event in the first part of the year, the Firecracker 400, which is our marquee mass event that we just had here in the middle of the summer, and then the Landon Castle Qualifying Challenge. You can also go to our Discord through there, so just hit the Discord link at the top or anywhere on the website. And we're always in the Discord, and it's the best place to interact with us. And then myself, I'm at P Kligerman across basically all social medias, and Park Kligerman here on Facebook. And then Landon, I'll let you go to yours. Yours is L Castle and Landon Castle all over. But definitely, eRacer, you can find us here, and also on our Facebook here for eRacer. We're very active on there as well, and all the live streams are on there and that sort of thing.
Yep, I found the link. I saw the site. I see the link to join the Discord. That's perfect. We're going to be spreading that around to the group in due time. And on a scale of 1 to 10, could I be an announcer voice? So, all right, this is out of the blue because it's 8:12. I'm getting a little punchy here. But, ladies and gentlemen, here we have Parker and Landon come around the track. Do you guys ever race against each other, by the way?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And who wins most?
I don't know if we've tracked it.
It's a dead heat.
Yeah, it's always even.
That is awesome. And how long have you guys known each other?
About 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
A decade.
And for the record, I was just going to try and do some racing announcing as a spur of the moment thing, but then I realized it was going to come out terribly, so I quickly changed the subject.
I think you should go for it. I heard you get started. I think it sounded awesome. I think you should let it rip. How about you call the final half a lap of a race? We're going down the backstretch. Parker and I are side by side going into turn 3 at 200 miles an hour. Why don't you bring us to the finish line, Dave?
Here we are in the Firecracker 7000. We have Parker and Landon coming neck to neck around the last quarter mile here. What's this? Oh, Parker's in the red car. Looks like he blew a tire. Landon stops and helps him out. And together they get on an e-racer bike and they're crossing the finish line together. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the Firecracker 7000. Two friends finishing together.
You nailed it.
That was terrible. And that will never happen. But that's why we're well, that was awful. I do it.
The blowing the tire was entirely realistic. That does happen. Landon stopping to help, absolutely not realistic. You go win it.
And then somehow a bicycle. I'm not sure where that came from, but
yeah, it was all off the cuff. Okay.
Yep. I think you did great.
Guys,
it is the moon game. Yep.
I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. We're gonna save the audio, and I'll send you a link in the email, and maybe we can do a follow up sometime.
Awesome. Look forward to it. Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Have a good night, fellas.